Hey, welcome to another episode of Coffee and HEMA with me, Jamie McKeever. Today I want to talk about fencing books and why we need them. And one of the things that HEMA sometimes gets criticized for by people from different martial arts is our reliance on text. People will look at that and look at the fact that we are reading period manuscripts and using them to learn fencing and say, you can't learn martial art from a book. I think they're wrong, clearly. I didn't really have any instructor for Vardy. Here I am now. People watch this apparently to get my opinions on fencing with other things, including Vardy. And I do perfectly well in tournaments and sparring, doing something which I have learned from a book, although obviously not just from a book. But when we talk about books in HEMA, the first thing we normally think about is just the historical aspect, right? Obviously, the access to historical fencing systems that we have is through written media, because the fencing master is dead, long dead in most cases, and there's always this kind of sadness or view from even from within HEMA where people say, okay, well, unfortunately, that's all we have access to because we haven't got access to the master. And while to some extent it'd be nice to have both, I think that even if we did have a living lineage or access to a time machine so we could go back and speak to these people, there is something important you can get from a book that you don't get from other access or other training methods that kind of retains the importance of books within HEMA no matter what. And also gives us some interesting thoughts for what kind of books we could see that aren't just the historical sources. So what am I trying to get at here? Taking a step back, I wanted to think about sort of what aspects of martial arts there are and what a physical class is and is not good at. Essentially in the same way that I don't think you can learn martial arts just from reading a book and doing nothing physical, I don't think you can learn a martial arts system just by doing physical and having nothing else, and a book being a good way of plugging that gap, as I say. Because there's kind of these two aspects to it, right? First of all, there's my ability to perform some actions in the right circumstance, right? It's both the performing of the action and being able to choose the circumstance. And training those and training your knowledge of how to apply them, with good drill design, absolutely something that requires you to do something physical, right? I cannot read about perfect moment and the perfect action in a book and go straight from having read that on the page, picking up a sword, going against someone and applying it. Doesn't work. You need to have something physical to be able to drill the instincts, to drill the ability to apply this kind of stuff. But in the context of kind of hour and a half, 2 hour classes, what people normally do, or sparring or anything like this, you're unlikely to be able to get out of some specific set of actions that have been wrapped up into that one class to be able to view the system as a whole, right? So in a 2 hour class, what I'm teaching, I'm probably going to teach, a bunch of related techniques, right? I might teach, I don't know, a bunch of stuff around grappling, maybe just using one kind of style of using the left hand, or maybe using 3 or 4, okay, whatever. And that's an hour and a half class. Done. We focus on something else, on something specific. People have learned how to apply things. People have learned some stuff. But that's just one part of the system as a whole. And where books and some other media as well, but books in particular, are really good at is rather than giving you sort of practice at the specifics, it's being able to take a step back and view the system as a whole and how it connects together. So, while elements will be relevant in every single lesson that we've got, being able to understand how tempo connects to guard, how these then connect to the 3 styles of play, how with some actions are appropriate to those styles of play and some are not, it's very hard to get that from just within one lesson. One lesson we're going to be covering a bunch of that, or even a body of lessons. My beginner's course is 7 weeks for Vardy, right? That doesn't cover... Body I chose 7 weeks because I wanted to cover the broad topics so people have at least an idea of each element. So if I say middle sword or if I say close play, people know what I mean, and they're able to kind of engage in that. Those 7 weeks doesn't cover every single thing in the system. It doesn't cover the full view from 10,000 feet. We don't cover, for instance, fates in that time. And of course, by the time you finish the course, no pun intended, the first lessons you had were 2 months ago, right? And you're not going to remember everything within that. So you got these kind of spaced out things that you've been learning, and it's a total of 16 hours over 2 months. Well, 16 hours is far longer than you need to read the book and get the entire system, right? In fact, in terms of doing a quick pass through of Vardy's book, you can probably do it in a couple hours if you're a speed reader. You won't get everything from that, but you'll get some conception of how all the parts are there and how they fit together, and a few more reads. At the same time, if you were putting the same level of time into reading it as you were going through those classes, so you got an equal amount of time in both. What that gets you, that reading of the book gets you, is this overview of the system and understanding how the components in each given class kind of fit together, rather than just be sort of a discrete element to it. And fundamentally, I think whatever way you're training martial arts, you need to consider how you're getting not just the specifics and drilling the specifics and understanding the specifics, but taking a step back and viewing those within their place within a wider system, rather than just a bag of tricks. Because then when you're fencing somebody and you're needing to adapt to what they're doing, you're able to say, okay, no, this approach isn't working. I need to try something else. The problem I'm seeing is this. This is the appropriate tool for that problem. Okay, I'm going to go down that path. And that conception of the system as a whole is really, really hard to convey within 2-hour classes, within physical classes. I've tried a few things recently not even recently, for a while now, that kind of help on that one. So the main discussion in my classes is student to student. So when we've done an exercise, partly to give them a rest so they can drink some water, but also so we can help them kind of embed the concepts, I get them to describe what they learned from from the exercise, or things they found interesting, things they found easy or hard, to try and get them to start thinking about not just they did a thing, but why was it good? Why was it bad? What do we need to work on? What kind of situations would it apply to? But that's still specific, right? That's still focusing on the things that they were learning in that exercise. It helps them build connections, but it doesn't do it entirely. You need to start thinking how you as a teacher can convey the wider system, but also as a student, the main way of doing that, the easiest way of doing that, is find a book that describes the whole thing, read the book. Unfortunately, historical sources are kind of difficult. I'm not going to say that everybody should go and pick it up. It is a skill in itself to read a historical fencing text, and not everybody will be able to do that. Don't feel bad if you can't, right? It's a very specific skill. It may or may not go hand in hand with being good at sword fighting. We need more texts that kind of summarize and describe these kind of views from 10,000 feet. You can do it in other media these days, right? Hopefully my Vardy videos are trying to get that across in a kind of a different format than written, and that kind of works too. Audiobook if we had them, but I don't think there's any HEMA audiobooks that I'm aware of. Obviously these could do. I personally think that a normal book is the best for this kind of thing, because you can go linearly once, and then after that you can jump around to whatever bit that you want. So I always prefer, while I use audiobooks, not in HEMA, but in life in general, a lot, for any kind of reference work, I always prefer a written book, because it allows me to read it in whatever order I think I need, rather than whatever order the author thinks that I need. Whereas audiobooks and videos, you're kind of stuck with them and you've got to kind of go along with it. But fundamentally, as I say, books to me are essential for learning martial arts, because of this ability to convey the system as a whole. And the ability to understand both the parts that you're doing and be able to apply them, and the wider system, are essential to be able to think tactically in a broad range of situations and make smart choices about what is the correct approach to do it, rather than just kind of reacting instinctually about whatever you're working for. And just as we're not really able to fully train martial arts by only reading a book and not doing any physical activity, I think we're not really able to train or get very good at martial arts by only doing physical activity and doing nothing to also understand and train the conceptual aspects that underpin and support whatever physical actions that we're doing. Thanks for watching. And as a reminder, by the way, if you are interested in me talking about some specific topic, there is a link in the description, by the way, where you can click on and request topics. I have a few requests now piled up that I'm going to be doing soon. But if you got something you want me to talk about, please ask me to talk about it. I'm happy to ramble on about whatever topic you feel.